Comrade Shoma. You are always advocate of, now the same politician and them they did here. Vote for Comrade Shoma. All right. If you want something different, something fresh, something new, something revolutionary, Comrade Shoma is your best shot at that. And you can support her. So let's get it going by passing the mic to speakers. We have speakers here. Please let's make it as brief, as concise, as straightforward as possible. Comrade Choma Melodike is here to answer all your questions, and we'll go towards that route now. All right, I will give all our listeners the right to contribute and ask their question. If you are just joining the space, share the space. If you are just joining and you want to ask Comrade Choma a couple of questions with respect to our plans, our policies, what she intends to do, request for the mic, and we'll be more than willing to pass you the mic to actually ask your question. And the first person we'll be taking will be Hike. Hike, are you there? Good evening.
I've left them. I'm going to the diaspora thing now. Ladies and gentlemen, any moment from now, I'm going to be joining Professor Farouk Barogi and our other comrades on Zoom to discuss a range of topics: state of the nation, diaspora voting, how things are going in my life and everybody's life today. And we're about to start. It's 8 p.m. Please try and join us. I think I'll put the link on our Facebook page as soon as we can get it, and we'll just comment section. I think he's been trying to reach me. Yes, I'm going to join Zoom Workplace. Sign in to join. Yeah, I have it. I have it. 1627. Yes. I suppose so. Okay. I think they need to admit me. Okay. They admit me. Okay, it's been live streamed. Join with audio. Make co-host. Yes, so we're going to host shortly. There you go. He's now a co-host, and with that, I would. Recording in progress. I would like to, yes. So now I can see our guests. Yes. So you're welcome. Thank you very much. Yeah, I can hear you loud. Thanks for. Yes, we can. Yes. Yes, we can. All right. Yes. Yes. Thank you for joining us. I was just going through the preliminaries and doing the intros. But again, welcome. Our guest is with us. Showore needs no introduction. Today's show is itself an omnibus because we're at the end of the show, we're going to reserve about 25 to 30 minutes for another group to be able to get to Showore. Showore is a very, and he had to sacrifice. He was supposed to be somewhere else on another show. And, we were going to try to reserve some time at the end for him to also participate on that show as well. That show is a weekly show, by the way. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our guest. Although he needs introduction, in Nigeria, if you ever lived in Nigeria, you are familiar with the name Omoyele Showore. But he's. No, what happened? It's reconnecting. It's reconnecting. So recording in progress. Yeah, it's back now. His history is didn't just begin administration with the Showore started out as a student union at the University of Lagos. During that time, he led many struggles, which cost him dearly. At one point, he was arrested and incarcerated. He has been incarcerated many more times after that. He's been tortured. He was front and center in the June 12th struggle. He was part of the pro-democracy movement that ushered in what we now call in Nigeria. So Showore is a man with a very wide resume. He struggled to make Nigeria better for all of us, for us to live. He is very controversial, but as I like to say, if you are controversial, it means you are doing right. Because you can fight for justice, you cannot fight corruption,
you cannot fight for good governance without being controversial, because every good fight invites backlash and invites resentment for those who profit from the rot, from the status quo. So for me, having Showore here is an opportunity for us to pick his brains, but for us to get to unseen what keeps him going in this struggle. It's been over 20 years since Showore and I got to know each other. We've grown older. Both of us are in our fifth now. And sometimes I ask myself, are we not old for this stuff? But I see him leading demonstrations, speaking up boldly, being brave. And when I see that, it puts me to shame. And I say, well, even though I'm getting old and I'm feeling tired, I'm being inspired by what he does. So he's somebody who is an inspirational figure. But I do want to by asking him a couple of questions. And then after that, I'll turn it over to colleagues who I'm sure have their own questions as well. But I just want to start with the premise today is, why are they after Showore? That is a simple title that we give this show. Why are they after Showore? You can put any number of people. You can put the government of the day. That day represents a lot of people. You can put the Inspector General of Police. He's part of that day, that collective. A lot of other people there on that category, that program. Why are they after him? Here with us, I'm going to ask him that. I hope he's still with us. He seems frozen.
Okay. Well, I'm with you. I can hear you loud and clear. Please, I hope brother, you can hear me as well.
Why are you?
Yeah.
Why always you? Why are they targeting you?
Yeah.
Why are you always in their crosshairs? That is a title that get this our show. So why are they after you?
Thank everyone who has joined us across the world. We're also broadcasting on the side as well. So it's going far. The moment you make a decision in life to challenge authority, the authority. Oh my goodness, this is gone. Okay, it's coming back. We can't afford to be going back and forth. Is it the internet? Okay. Try that. Okay, I said that. You got it now. We can't afford this.
Recording in progress.
I completely don't see his video.
Sorry.
You can't hear him. So
sorry. Can you hear me now? Yes. All right. It was they started targeting my internet.
We suspected that.
Yes. You make a decision early in life to challenge authority, and I was stating earlier that authority could mean your parents, it could mean your teachers at school, it could be your choir master. You target. You become a target for appraisal. You become a target for ridicule. A target for direct suppression. I started very early in life to start to question authority. My father was my teacher, primary school, and when I moved over back to secondary school, I challenged him. There was a day he was supposed to pay the Parents Teacher Association's fees, and he was also the person in charge of flogging kids who didn't pay. So he lined us up and pretended as if he didn't see me. He was flogging everybody when it was my turn. I looked at him and said, "What are you doing? How can you flog my father? What, you are the one who's supposed to pay this fees." And he didn't find he doubled uh, my cane. Always had that streak in me because I experienced police repression. Spoken about this very to many people early in life in Nigeria uh, in 1980, and it was there that I internalized the decision that I would at level at every level. So to answer your question very quickly, a target on your back. I think I was having this conversation with Femi Falana one day, who has been my long-time lawyer, that it gets to a point where you're authorities and you become a historical enemy of the state. It's like they will place a file. So whomever comes just becomes your enemy. And I remember Babangida one time when he was asked, I think it was a magazine interview when he came into power. Having been the one who released him when Buhari, I think they released them when Buhari was overthrown. He said, "Well, everybody jailed him, so I might as well just do that." So that was the simple explanation. I think people like us, this guy, his own is too much. We got to deal with him. Let's jail him. Let's hand his ass to mosquito. Like Fela used to say, beat him up, rough him up. The goal is to ensure that you don't do to their own regime what you used to do to the last regime. So there's a security report on all of us who challenge authority. It doesn't matter whether you are Berogi who is writing nasty articles in there, that's what they call it, or challenge them by creating in their newspaper online that expose them. You target on your back. And I want to say also that in my recent, um, you know, brush with the law or what is in Nigeria, that the unforgivable sin, they've sinned, they call the sin against the Holy Spirit, right? To them, it's Sahara reporters, can't get over the fact I left this country after I was in the university. They should have killed me in the university, but they didn't. We didn't allow you to graduate. You graduated. We didn't give certificates that you won't find a job. You left the country because now you came back and you go to the US, went out to your master, and then you created, in their view, what is corruption, which is a lifestyle, which is Sahara reporters. So when I get to these days, it's always, oh, Sahara reporters did this against the IGP told the officer he told to arrest me last time that I wrote a story against the guy who he sent to meet me and interrogate me, who ruffled me up the next morning. I against me. I still have a whole file, but that's the reason why I just is because this time around you committed the cyber. So I'm just giving you that my crime went from being physical to dominant, and I think it was in the past when we started the fight against them, and it wasn't good. But now there's archives and archives against them, and this can be read by anybody. There are people who we wrote stories against. They have kids 19 years ago. They are now going to and they go and Google their father's name. So their father is a thief. They get home and say, "You didn't tell me you're a thief." He said, "Where are the Sahara reporters?" Okay, if I catch Ore one day, I'll do with him. So, in addition to the fact that you're challenging authorities, you're fighting for, we're fighting for the rights of students. We are fighting for lecturers, these are struggles that had disappeared completely. And then we came and reignited that. And then you start breeding all these younger revolutionary people who are challenging authority. So I just think this is broadly the reason why I see them all over me. And anybody who thinks this is going to go away, you know, just know that you're not probably power. Tell you that they have diversified, deal with people like it comes from the of course the police, they can use, but I've noticed that those are the wrong time to organize protest issue. The people that they pay massively, media, those things are very well organized, well paid for. Go out there and you target show, lie against him, and convince people that he's not true. They say he is. Those are non-state actors. Some category that most did not in the past, but I know what, and I just think that the crime against them has become historical, and the struggle is most probably going to last me my lifetime.
Great points. And of course, intimidated people there. I've been part of some of the stories that been following those stories for a very long time.
Yes.
So what you just set me thinking, all these years you've been on behalf of the Nigerian people, but a lot of people that started this struggle with you quit, gave up, were discouraged. And if you ask some of them, they appreciate them. The Nigerians don't appreciate what they are doing. And that in fact, some Nigerians, but some Nigerians stand in the way of what they're doing. Some Nigerians who potentially could benefit from this struggle are the ones sabotaging them, actively working against them, and that as they are humiliating. But for whatever reason, you don't seem to be faced by that. So what's keeping you going? In spite of the fact that it seems like Nigerians themselves, when they look at you, I've had conversations, sometimes heated conversations, I must confess, about you with some people, some of my interlocutors, and I've had to defend you with everything I've got. And so this could potentially benefit them. So this level of ingratitude or lack of appreciation doesn't seem to phase you. Why?
Well, I think anybody who is engaging in a struggle at the scale that I've been involved with it, I thought it out well that it's a thankless job. I knew it long time ago. It happened. I found out that it's a thankless job when we effect a spell that in 1992 by the law and we had the Babangida protests in 92, and we were all attacked, and the university was closed down. They came and forced us out, arrested some people, Mayegun, and then they picked back up and the rest of them outside. And when when the protest was very harsh, the Babangida regime was now he started it. Started donating to see increase allowances for being arrested and going to police. And people were so bitter towards us, eating our dogs. And we said, look, we just fought for you, we fight for you, you're robbers. Then later they said we're trying to overthrow the government. So I then thought that when we applied to the justice system, the Lagos High asked the university to reverse we saw you fighting for, but the judge was lampooning us. One justice and saying that, in fact, if we he will shave all of heads and he will flog us. But at any rate, he's not allowed to do that. But if we want to be admitted to the university, we should forget about using his court portion. He will take us to the vice chancellor on Friday in a mosque at the National Mosque in Lagos, then, or the Central Mosque. We'll go and prostrate and beg in front of the chief imam of Lagos. And we said, what? It was the first shock I had from the judiciary. So he never granted us an ex parte motion we applied for to get back to school. He was just lampooning us. So we stopped going. When they reopened the school, we met at Becker's house or office, or the office of the Campaign for Democracy in those days, number 8 in Maria Street. And I told the guys, I said, why are you guys wasting your time? Let's mobilize all the students. When we get back, we shut down the school. If they reopen the school and the classes are not happening, this university we know we are not playing. That's what we did, and that's how we were reabsorbed back on campus. But even as we were reabsorbed back on campus, those of us who led the struggle were discriminated against by some students. They kept saying, "Oh, those they call us layabout, Aluta people. They don't want us to graduate, so don't vote for them." So I won the student union election barely. I remember I won by 888 votes, and the guy who was next to me almost defeated me. His name is Bodunde. He was an SU guy, what they call the Scripture Union guy, Believers Love Word. He almost defeated me, and he was opposed to protest. So we won, and then every other thing that happened after then was one ungratefulness to the other. Not at this, when you're on campus, you expect students who would understand the system better. To the point that I was almost killed by students in 1994, student cultists. And I was fighting to ensure court guys don't kill the student. In fact, throughout my tenure at the University of Lagos, no cultist was able to kill a student. There was a day I had to go and collect a grenade from a guy who wanted to come and bomb the campus. They wanted to bomb a cult meeting, and we heard about it. We got the grenade from him, took it to the police. The police released him the next day. We saw him on campus. We ran to the police station at Sabo. Why did you release this guy? He said it's a smoke, it's a smoke bomb, it's not a grenade. Oh wow, we said, so there's a difference between a grenade and a smoke bomb. He said, yes, if you had unleashed it or not, you just have released smoke on campus. But this was a high profile grenade that could have killed students. But it was because the students were complicit, and a lot of students were complicit. So what I'm trying to say is that, having found out early in life that this is an ungrateful job, I started doing the life of others who do this ungrateful work. Nelson Mandela, Martin King, I mean, how they ended their lives. And I remember in reading, and also reading works of, even books written by people as he was in detention for 27 years. There was a time that South Africa forgot about him. And you could find that if you read the book by this comedian from South Africa, Noah. He's the one who was doing the show in the US. I forgot his name. Oh, yes, Noah. Trevor Noah. If you read his autobiography, you know that he was born at the time that South Africa did not know who Mandela was. So, but to us in Nigeria, we thought Mandela was in the heart of South African basis. There was a whole generation that didn't know about Mandela. It wasn't until he was then released that they said, oh, or maybe something just happened someday, and they said, oh, there's a guy called Mandela in prison. Oh, really? And everybody started struggling for it. Of course, it was an international struggle. I'm giving all this background so that you know that at the point I had to also introspectively look into the lives of other people who have done this thankless job before. But I realized long time ago that it's a thankless job. But I'm doing this. I'm not hoping that anybody will come and care about me. It's never been done historically that people who do things like that at our scale appreciate, and it's for a number of reasons. Even the people who you think are activists don't necessarily like you because they look at it and say, "Are you the only person here?" And some It's about they are doing the activism that is dragging them along. They don't want to do critical activism. They don't want to be all that in the face, especially with the whole civil society dimension to activism where everything is always chasing after some kind of glory. You bring your own activism that doesn't conform with the textbook activism that they have been told is the one that works. They hate you for it. And I say this because there was a day I was at the DSS when I was detained in 2019. And there was a press conference by CSOs. And I was watching it because I came to pick food between 4 and 5 p.m. Every day. And I was watching it. They kept the station on. I think they did it on purpose. And I saw the press conference. There were about 40 CSO people there. And they declared the protest. The DSS guy told me, he said, if 5 of these people go to your protest tomorrow, we'll release you. And lo and behold, the protest that happened following that was only Deji, and that was the day Deji was almost killed by some non-state actors. And then they released me a few days later. No, and I think I was released the day after, not because of the protest, because there had been another protest in front of the DSS that DSS brutalized some activists and CSO working together, but because the American ambassador came to Nigeria, the new one at that time, went to see Buhari and presented to Buhari a demand by the senator of my part of the world in New Jersey, Menendez, who is now been jailed for corruption, and the House of Rep member Gottheimer. Uh, and they said if Showret was released, there was a 300 million naira they wanted to release to the Nigerian government, which was process of corruption from Abacha or Bagudu. And they won't release it. And when Buhari saw that $300 million was going to be held up because of me, he said he lied. He said, no, is that guy still in detention? Go and call everybody. And they called everybody, and that was when they came to detention to ask me to leave. So I'm just explaining all these things to you. I know it might be all over the place, but again, it comes back to the fact that anybody who's going to be doing this don't have any expectations. None whatsoever. I don't think that anybody loves you. And those people who then go and join the government are people who have expectations. They have expectations that people will be throwing flowers at them and roses, and there will be red carpet. The moment the red carpet don't come, they go and join government. But there are also those who genuinely feel that it's not worth it to die for Nigerians because yes, there are human beings in other parts of the world, and they have these attributes. But the attributes of Nigerians as a people, they are special. We have to say that. Nigerians are people who likely are in love with their oppressors, either by way, I don't know whether it is the culture or it is just complicity or just these years of they're beating them down so well that they don't know any other thing than to just celebrate the person who somehow, and they will steal from them. You bring out the information, they will still go back and fake these people. I remember that case. Everybody in Nigeria was waiting for a body from London. You think that he went and picked up price and it was returned. The biggest pre-body was to welcome him. They were fighting. Police, DS, setting to be noticed by him. That's Nigeria, at least Nigeria of today. Things that make some people just look at it. They just look at years that happen on earth. People who are oppressors. So understand diamond psyche. Some people are fought, that one side Ghanaian, they'll point you to all the people who have died young. Nigeria is such a place that is to die young. And if you are bad, you are likely to last long. the example all over the place. The Obasanjos, they don't die. The Babangiras, they might be bent over, like, but they keep living. The Abdul Salam is, maybe what killed Buhari was carelessness. But, even his people said because Nigeria has a way of in the life of bad people, destroying and using the life of good people. That's been our experience, at least on a political space.
Can I ask you on that?
Go ahead, please.
Uh, the first time I met Story was in 1994, and he described that incident. That was at Unilag.
Yes.
He was in protest against secret cult guys.
Yes.
And I recall being, that is not very dangerous. How could you do that? And that's when many years later, when you, because there was no one who was hard on the secret cult than you. And I recall you making a speech where you were invoking geography metaphors, because it was studying geography, and the vice chancellor at the time
Also,
was a geographer. So you're making reference, you say that now could be because it was geography metaphor. And poison.
that was when I was attacked by them.
Okay, I think maybe that
A
was
few days
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So there have been several. In my book, I recorded an instance. I think that was about was one thing where almost every time you want that person.
Yeah, Abacha, that was the day Abacha was passing the Ikorodu road on everybody on the cultural struggle, and we just barely survived.
Yes. So you've had these close shifts with death, and on a one interest level, you have your mom, your brother died.
Yeah.
A few years ago. For you, I think a few days ago, which I shared with my colleagues, talking about your mom having suffered a stroke.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah.
As a consequence. So I'm asking, are there no moments when you tell yourself, look, I'm not just endangering my life, I'm endangering the life of people yet to be born, your brothers. And you dare to give up and say, look, this is an unsalvageable situation. And then this point to that is, what do you say to people who say this guy has a death wish, that sort of thing? You see death, you confront it frontally, you survive, but most other people would have said, well, that was close. I won't do that again. I won't go back, but keep going. What is it that, so these two things, don't you have concerns about, your loved ones, your parents, and then what is it that pushes you to do it in spite of all of these close shifts with them? During Buhari's time, when you were injected, I saw that video. I really was on that case because that was the moment I really, really came close to thinking that you were going to lose you. And I got very emotional and was really into publicizing it, including so many other things. So I yield to you.
Well, it comes back to this connection with the struggle from the beginning, earlier times in life, and how I view oppression and how I view my role in ending oppression. Uh, and I think over time, you continue to build on whatever it is that's pushing you because of conviction. And my own conviction is that, look, you live in a society where things could be working. And I had a reverse experience. When I mean reverse experience, that when I traveled to the US, naturally everybody who traveled to the US just want to stay there and enjoy life, right? But the way I saw the US is, oh my God, look at how people built this place, And I'm looking at the people who made it happen, the slaves who were brought, who built all those great places, the guys who have to die for civil rights. That's how I think. To the point that one of the first places I traveled to, almost by accident, in the US when I arrived freshly, was to Selma, Alabama, where I'd met this young lady who was telling me about the Petra Bridge or so that Martin Luther King came, and I fell in love with the place, even though the place looks like Oshodi. It was the poorest part of U.S. Alabama. They still like hang their clothes on the lines like we do back home, and they still do like old time farming and all that. But I fell in love with the place. I was always thinking that, oh, look at it, maybe we could just make our country good like this. Like, I want to ride on a road that is free, great, that has electricity. So when everybody was looking at US and like, oh my God, this is one of this is God's own country. I realized that the people of the US don't call their country God's own country, by the way, because they know it's too much hand of the devil in the place for them to call it a God's own country. So, but I was looking at it from the point of what is it I can learn and experience and bring home. And there was also a part of me that was guilt when I had traveled to the US. I always felt like I abandoned the struggle. I remember when I had a chance to return back to Nigeria in 2003, I was just in a hurry. Most of you would have experienced this, to see all our old friends and activists, where I did now. I was so disappointed. Nobody was doing activism anymore. In fact, a friend of mine called me and said, don't carry that thing you took away, because Nigeria is a better place now. Nobody has time for all this. Don't go and criticize government. It was the time the Obasanjo regime was still lying to people. I think Bola Ige was minister of power, went and cranked up electricity just to, but everything fell apart eventually. But no, I didn't find an iota of activism anymore. I went to the CLO. Nobody was talking activism anymore. I There was OPC and Dr. Fashion protesting Obasanjo second term in front at Toyota. And I went to a June 12th event. Everybody was trying to support Obasanjo. I was heartbroken. So I had to return to the US. So it was when I returned to the US that the idea of I got a job at the Catholic Charity in 2005, I think, or 2004, after I returned to Nigeria. And by 2006, the idea of a website has been building in my head. And you guys know that I met Elendu Report. But before Elendu, I was writing, I was a greeter for The Guardian on weekends. But the guy called me one day and said, after I interviewed Kano, this Ojiuzo Kano, when he told me that Obasanjo is a criminal, and I published it, and Kano on national TV was denying it, that I lied, that I made up the story. He doesn't know who Shore is. And I was in the country, so I had to leave. I said, these people, this country has changed. It's been taken over by criminals. So, but I met a Lindu. We did a Lindu for a while, and then Star Reporters after that, and it worked very well. Most people don't, but some of you here, Farouk, Moses, all of us were part of the Shadow Board, working on a lot of ideas and reporting and how to sustain reports, because this things now started happening to us first. But it wasn't on Twitter or Facebook. There used to be all these Yahoo groups of Nigerians where they will come and lie about you. They will say this report is not true. They will say you are making it up. Then we migrated to Nigeria Village Square. I'm sure John was there. And I would struggle to put my story there. And then the owner will yank it off and say, no, I don't. Then he later confessed that he was relatives to some of the people we were writing about. But that's the question. That's the story for another day. But to come back to your question, so I don't look like I completely digress. Sometimes I feel like it's unfair to my relatives, what they go through. I think I've made up my own mind that, Kesera, Sarah, whatever will be. But to have your brother killed and in a way that you can't explain, of course, breaks. My mom had stroke the day the DSS came and abducted me in court. She was at CNN. granting an interview. She finished the interview according to my brother, and then as they were thanking, you, saying to her, "Your son has been released." Right there, one of my younger ones whispered into her ears and said he's been rearrested, and they said that was the last time they saw her, a normal person. Because I was restricted to Abuja, I couldn't see my mom. Maybe if I had seen her immediately, I could have figured. So it took us a year to figure out that she had stroke. It was when I asked him, my younger one, to take her to the hospital. I think I fed Babalola University Teaching Hospital in Ekiti. They did a scan on her head and discovered that she had had stroke for a whole year. At that time, it was almost too late to start to rectify. She's completely paralyzed now. She can't talk. She doesn't recognize us anymore, but she's just there. So, and then you look at it and say, I have wife, I have kids, you know. I left my children when they were 18. She got into college 2 weeks ago. I was supposed to accompany her to college. I wasn't there. I was supposed to be on her day of graduation. They had seized my passport again since January. So I'm supposed to take my, because I only spent some 8 months there in 2024. I don't think it was even 8 months. I was still returning to Nigeria to answer to some other charges because I didn't want to get the impression that I've disappeared, you know, I've absconded. So I'm stuck here again since December of 2024, and then I'm getting rearrested again. They're jumping into my cell, you know, torture me again. Things that you would think will not happen again in Nigeria. You know, you are finding DSS writing to Facebook, Twitter to take down your account. They have charged me to court now. Again, I'm going to be in court on Tuesday. As we speak, they have another plot completely that was unraveled to me today. How, you know, and you of course know what the landlord in Abuja is doing. You know, they're doing everything they can to just blackball me into out of existence. And I'm sure they will take whatever next steps they can when if they find the opportunity presentable. So so I feel I would say I feel more of guilt, you know, that and sometimes the kind of guilt that makes you feel like, oh, maybe you're not as responsible as you should be. But there's always something that I look at, which is the other side of it, that you know maybe somebody has to do this, and maybe this is a privilege. I should take this as a privilege that I'm able to even do anything for a country of 200 million people. You know, that I can stop a guy going to jail. If I wasn't there, maybe he would be forgotten in jail. I can stop maybe a local official from stealing everything that belongs to everybody, even though they will steal it again. So there's also a point of privilege that you look at it. And sometimes it's just about, you look at it. So that's the part of me that probably, even though I'm not religious, I said to myself, maybe, my father didn't make a mistake naming me Stephen, that I just came here to come and tell these people the truth. Maybe one day they just kill me. I don't know, but it's deeper than that sometimes. So, but it's just how I have processed this broadly. Yeah. And I know that if they've had their way, they would have killed me a long time ago. I don't have any doubt that the idea of killing Shore has crossed so many of them, it crossed the mind of so many of these guys. I know how they think, and you can tell the way they react to you sometimes. Uh, that the only option, they're close to that option. So but it's an unraveling too, that I just find myself to be a lucky person that I can unravel a lot of things in my society. And sometimes I look at it and say, what if all of these are not an activist that I see go to jail anyways? you know, there are people who go to jail for committing no crime, and you don't even get to hear about them. You don't get to know about them. They didn't fight anybody. You look at it and say you could have died too. You die every day in this country. People die in accidents. There are buses that plunge into the river on our roads and nobody even try to rescue. No one try to just they just look at it and see. I might be exaggerating, but We have times that buses are full of people just plunge into the river. Nobody even tried to rescue anybody. They just wish them well. So anything could potentially kill you in Nigeria. Anything could also potentially kill you in America. Um, I was saying to myself when COVID was around that maybe if I was in the US, knowing me, I would be all over the place. Maybe who knows? I got COVID. When it was potentially very deadly. Anything can happen to anybody. So that's how I see life. But if I have an opportunity, I would apologize to my family members, especially who see the burden, because sometimes I put myself in their position that if I was my wife, for instance, and every time I get a Facebook notification is, oh, they're about to kill this guy. I don't know if it's something I can handle too well. I will care about it, because as a father of a child, so, and sometimes she has to watch some of those things live at 4 a.m., 2 a.m., and so it's a lot. I have to admit. And then you have children who are not, their father is not there. It's all of this is tough. I have to give it to the family side that they've done fantastically well. I mean, look at the other day, I get a call, like, oh, they have put your child's school on the internet.
I was going to mention that
Yeah.
aspect.
And what do we do? They have to contact the police for protection, because that might be a signal that they want to target the boy. I don't even doubt that they can do it, but we're lucky that. So assuming that my children are here with me in Nigeria, imagine what these guys could have done. So because when you're fighting this kind of level of struggle, they don't even have boundaries.
And this is where I want to come in because, my book chronicled the experiences you had here. You were sued by
Oh yeah.
several government officials in the US, and the cases were, thrown away. But before that, there were all kinds of tactics to discredit you.
Yes.
Which Moses wrote about once, where they looked at all of the places you had rented and said they were the
houses that I owned. Yes.
I owned, and including hostels.
Yeah, at Columbia University.
We exposed it and became a subject of laughter. But now there's a new reiteration of that same tactic that I'm seeing from the government officials, and that's what led to your son being
Yes.
exposed. And there's also it seems to me the cultural position that whatever your children have, whatever your wife has to always be from you. You don't have a wife who works in a job that also gets, that has sufficient resources to support whatever you do.
Yeah.
But it's a tactic you're already used to. But I don't know if you want to address some of the issues that came up.
No. So I have I was mentioning when we started that there are state and non-state actors involved. One of the tactics that they started using very early was not only to discredit you, but to discredit you to those who might be supporting you. So, for instance, a lot of these American support groups that we have for Sahara reporters, they hate lawsuits. Everybody who lives in America know nobody likes lawsuits. And under Jonathan, Reno Mockery started getting lawyers to threaten. He didn't threaten Sahara. He knew he couldn't sue Sahara reporters. He never did. He would never try it. But he started threatening to sue Ford Foundation and I think Omedia Foundation. And they were alarmed. In fact, Ford Foundation in 2015 stopped funding Sahara reporters because of threats of uh, lawsuits. But not only were they doing that, they were also online blackmailing them that in supporting Sahara reporters, they were supporting terrorism in Nigeria. Uh, then they engage in a lot of slaps. These are strategic lawsuits against public participation. That's what they're called in the US. So you had pastors suing me. There was a guy that sued me, and we were in court for 4 years. That was Emeka Ogwonye. The guy was exposed for selling Nigerian embassy at below uh, normal prices. And had it been that the work we were doing wasn't legit, they would have bankrupted Sahara Reporters and myself as far back as 2009. Because if you know about lawsuits, even if a lawsuit lasts for 2 weeks, you're not spending less than $10,000. But I was lucky that a lot of those lawsuits, I was able to get big law firms that were doing pro bono work, some of them to write off their taxes. And we got people who were in touch with them, who were in love with Sahara Reporters' work. So we were able to get lawyers across boards who did pro bono work for Sahara Reporters. And I think we went through about 6 lawsuits, including the last one that was dismissed. They had actually the woman Lillian Ono, who used to be an ambassador to Namibia. She had actually obtained a default judgment against me because I was not in the US. So I arrived in the US in February. The day I arrived, I saw a bailiff waiting on the corner. I said, "Oh, you, Mr. Shure, welcome. I thought he wanted to greet me. He served me with a lawsuit, took a picture of me." So I had to come back to Nigeria a few months later, hadn't found a lawyer. She went to court and obtained a judgment against me. So it was when I returned to the US that I found lawyers who then, first of all, we had to clear the default judgment. And then we put in our defense. And so, but if you look at the internet yesterday, she wrote an article saying that what the police accused me of was true. And the reason she sued Sahara Reporters, she was applying for asylum and she wanted to claim that Sahara Reporters somehow was complicit in bed with Nigerian government. If she comes to Nigeria, they'll kill her. Yes. There was a guy who sued us, Paul Ori, in Texas in those days. He sued me under Yara.
Not that guy.
Because he wanted to get a NAFDAC job. And the moment he got a NAFDAC, he abandoned the lawsuit. He came to Nigeria, looted NAFDAC, and he became rich. He was under workers' friend. There's a guy in he had gotten other issues, he had gotten involved in other issues. This once had out of jail. He was the one who took the woman 73-year-old of her house and sold it by posing as the buyer and the lawyer at the same time. So then other threats, but I want to talk about Reno Mokri. Reno Mokri started that whole. So, and then by Saraki, we brought Sahara Reporters Media Foundation in 2000 years. They had already planned in the world. So they were happy that Showora is coming to Nigeria. Before I knew it, one guy came there and attacked me physically. I ended up in the police station. Police wanted to turn the case in 2016. By that, we did a story of this guy, Nigerian, buy houses in Dubai, Buratai. And how he was using a call to go and pay for the house. This Buratai hired a lawyer for the guy who attacked me. And they sued me. And after it took, I think it was this year that the lawsuit was dismissed in Lagos. So all of that, they also work with Saraki. Saraki got a judge in Kwara State to freeze. God gave a judgment without hearing from us. They froze our accounts, the foundation for a whole year, $1,000. Before we were able to get the Court of Appeal to freeze the account, the people who gave the money as a support, dead. They said he was Senate president at the time. So, but not only were they doing that, they were on a daily basis attacking Sahara reporters. They had all these Twitter trolls, lying against Sahara reporters. Sahara reporters is extorting people, blackmailing people. Same thing they're doing now. Until Saraki was defeated. In fact, it was our case against him that led him to lose in Kwara State. That's where they started Autoge. When some students went to court and fought physically on behalf of Sahara reporters against Saraki, the people of Kwara took inspiration from that and started a movement they called Autoge against him. That was what got rid of Saraki in Kwara politics, Sahara reporters. But he had done the damage at that point. So to just wrap it up quickly there, they do all kinds of things. They mix it all together, They'll they would it's a whole strategy and it's well funded. Uh, Even some of the people on the obedient side, they do that. One of them started that Shore is a CIA agent, and the goal again is to present you as who you are not, so that the public will hate you, if possible, can just lynch. They have people can lynch you on the streets, literally, based on all. Yes, it is part of the strategies. Like this show, we can't kill him, but maybe we can push some crazy people to just kill him for us. Because if someone say, "Well, that you are CIA agent," there's the likelihood that somebody who is patriotic might say, "Oh, Shore is here to destabilize the country on behalf of to call this cook up lies against you." And you guys, interestingly, were there at the early stages of what we went through. In fact, part of the reason we decided this violence early on was one of the best decisions we made. And the reason we couldn't have what we technically call the board. We had any board member, they can't reach the board member. The board member was sure, I'm tired of this. Maybe they push other board members and the little impact. I mean, the cost of defending themselves, never we had a lean operation from the beginning, so that we narrowed their target. And at the end of the day, the target narrowed to me. And that's just coming from left, right, and center. But there are several other things. As we speak, there are over probably 15 lawsuits at the FCT court alone against our reporter. I think there's some lawsuit. These days, they just don't even force the proceedings anymore. They just go to court and have it. There was a senior advocate of Nigeria, Yusuf Ali, case at the FCT court against reporters, and he claimed that we were served on Twitter. And judge gave a judgment on him, Justice Kekemeke, and the judge was raking in the court as if. Turns out he had a problem with me. He's filming from my village in Ondo State. So we had done a story about somebody from their village was involved in this airpiece saga. And so they hold that again. And they said there was a story written about the wife of that. So she held that against and allowed evidence the account because serve the procedures and so many, like if I were my life and I write one for reporters, and it becomes sense to combine those two things at all. Yes.
Mostly it's like we are talking about. I can't hear you. But it doesn't show. I can't. Oh, I can't hear Moses.
I think it's
You could hear you well. Yeah.
I can hear you, but I can't hear Moses though. I've been there who refused to leave. Force them out. But you know who targeted me for mutiny? They claimed that I was inciting policemen to mutiny. You know, but I'm happy that I do that for policemen. I don't know because this is the job of an activist is to speak up for anybody without regard, race, orientation, ethnicity, or their job, which is stand up for whomever can stand up for themselves. We can count democracy as our victory. This age, we confronted the military and we brought about democracy. But the Nigerian democracy you have today is not the hang on the wall. And we say, if you tell people that I fought for this democracy, if I tell my children that I don't fought for this crazy people, say that there's something wrong with you. Because
so I want Dr. Osman to come in. I want to bring Osman before Osman comes in. You know, as you were speaking earlier about what keeps you going and what inspires you, this thing, we've been fighting this struggle for so long. In Nigeria, improvements. Then maybe if only electricity worked better, only the country was better connected, maybe a transportation network. One sector, not even we know what about our expectations, but if only something, we could see something that somehow had gotten better. But it doesn't seem like that's why I'm wondering because the country seems to be getting worse in terms of all indicators of development.
You think about it. Yeah, I know someone wants to comment, but you think about it. Yeah. Think about in Nigeria with no activists, where you'll be today. Some of you that are abroad, you cannot try to come home. You would have given up on coming because where they can just do whatever they want. And that's the country they want. That there's still a barrier that keeps Nigeria somehow sane, It's you have to give it to whomever stands up against these guys. In any little way they little or not. You have to, because see, you can also say that about people who died in the US. You can say that about Malcolm X, that at the time he was killed, there hasn't been much achievement, right? By the time Martin Luther King died, sanitation workers were still fighting for minimum wage. So, and he didn't achieve that. Even so, but I think there's a lesson to learn from there. That maybe also we must look at. We might be able to look at it and say maybe it's inspiring people to speak up more. This will bring about a new generation of Nigerians. The operating word is maybe.
Yes.
So let's take Osman, please.
Please come.
Yes, thank you guys so much. I have to apologize. It's almost like the whole universe trying to make sure I'm sure that I swear that I must make it happen. So I apologize because I'm using my cell phone. Yeah, laptop just wouldn't connect. But anyway, I think I joined all this and thanking you, Shore, for gracing this show. We know you're a hot commodity, so nice. But so months ago, I wrote about you. Somebody called it a geography. Um, I think your thing had made it go viral, and I was glad because I was thinking to call me and maybe send me some of those money making Sahara reporters. It happened, so I had to join the obedience and dragging you down. Then someone said, okay, I shouldn't do that. So I down. But anyway, I want to do, I think I'm kind of most Nigerians when I say that we are in awe of your extraordinary courage. You could have easily joined the bandwagon of politicians we have in Abuja, live in gilded mansions, and live happily thereafter. But that's not the life you chose. You chose to be arena. And that you've been typhoon blast. Yeah. Something along the line. Now there is a Omoyele show already activist, which everybody knows. I see you as many others as somebody who that is deep in trouble. Whether it's your campaign, whether it's everything else with the police and a testament to extraordinary. So I'll say that you've done wonderfully well, and we continue. Part of you about being a politician, which maybe I can just, and a big part of it is done. I does mean